The world of Warcraft is calling, once again. Step into the story, follow our hosts, and let every sentence guide you deeper into Azeroth as you gain a little more power in English.
Listen along and you'll naturally pick up these expressions. Sentience, the ability to feel, think, and be aware of yourself. Draw on, to use something as a source of power, knowledge, or support. Have been around a while, to have existed or been involved for a long time. Gloss over, to avoid talking about something in detail, often because it is difficult or important. Failsafe, a backup system designed to prevent disaster if something goes wrong. Keep in the back of your head, to remember something quietly because it may become important later. Arid, very dry, with little rain or water. Walk me through, explain something step by step. Find one's form, to slowly become clear, stable, or fully developed. A kill switch, a control or system that can shut something down completely in an emergency. The following are special terms from the World of Warcraft universe. You don't need to memorize them, but understanding what they mean will help you enjoy today's episode. The Well of Eternity. A massive lake of magical energy formed from the wound left after Aman'Thul tore Y'Shaarj from Azeroth. Its power helped life grow across the world. The Forge of Wills, a titan machine placed in the north, inside Ulduar. It helped shape Azeroth's growing sentience and could create new titan forged from stone, metal, and Azeroth's life essence. The Forge of Origination, a titan machine placed in the south, in Uldum. It helps stabilize the world soul's form and could also be used to purge all life from the world if corruption became unstoppable. Ulduar, the great northern fortress of the Titan Forged. It housed Yogg-Saron's prison and the Forge of Wills. Prime Designate, the highest rank among the Keepers. Odin received this title and was charged with watching over Yogg-Saron's prison and the Forge of Wills. Uldum, the southern Titan Forge stronghold built around the Forge of Origination. Ra, also called High Keeper Ra. He led the expedition to install the Forge of Origination and oversaw several southern Titan Forged works. Ahn'Qiraj, a fortress built over the prison of Cthulhu in the region later known as Silithus. The Earthen, stone Titan Forged, who helped craft mountains and carve out the deep places of Azeroth. The Mechanomes, clockwork Titan Forged designed by Mimiron to build and maintain the Keeper's machines. Freya, a keeper empowered by Eonar. She shaped organic life on Azeroth, created or molded the Emerald Dream, and cared for the wild gods. The Emerald Dream, a vast realm of spirits and nature magic connected to Azeroth. It helped guide the growth and development of the world's plants and animals. The Wild Gods. Powerful ancient animal spirits loved and protected by Freya. Their spirits were bound to the Emerald Dream, and they became symbols of Azeroth's health and vitality. Loken, a keeper empowered by Norgannon with intellect and magic. He helped create the Discs of Norgannon with Mimiron. Mimiron, a keeper empowered by Norgannon. He was a brilliant inventor who helped build Titan machines and created the Mechanomes. Kalimdor, the first great landmass of Azeroth, named by the Titan Forged. The name means Land of Eternal Starlight. Okay, let's begin today's adventure.
Hey, Leora.
Hey, Torin. Big episode today.
Big episode?
Think about where we've been. We started at the very beginning of the universe, watched the Pantheon form, watched Sargeras fall apart, watched the old gods crash into Azeroth and build an empire, watched the Titan Forge tear the whole thing down.
And now?
Now we build. Today is the episode where Azeroth starts to look like a world. The mountains, the seas, the forests, the things living in them, all of it shaped in this episode.
Okay, that does sound like a big one.
It is, and I'll warn you, there's a lot of pieces to it. No single dramatic moment like last time. But every single thing we talk about today shows up again later, sometimes centuries later, sometimes in a raid you've probably already cleared. So pay attention.
Pressure's on.
A little bit. All right, let's start where we left off. The old gods are sealed underground, the Black Empire is destroyed, the war is over, but Azeroth is still bleeding.
The wound where Yasharaj used to be.
That enormous scar in the ground where Aman'Thul tore the old god loose. The world's own life energy had been pouring out of it ever since, and the Keepers knew that if they left it alone, it would only get worse. So they got to work, building magical barriers around the wound, trying to contain the energy and slow the bleeding.
Did it work?
Eventually. The energies calmed, they found their own balance, and what was left, where the wound had been, was a massive lake. Not water exactly. Something that looked like liquid light, shimmering, radiant, full of cosmic energy.
That's beautiful, actually.
The Keepers called it the Well of Eternity, and it would become one of the most important things on Azeroth. Its power spread across the world and helped life take root and grow everywhere.
So, in a way, Yasharaj's wound became the well that nourished life on Azeroth.
That's a very strange and very accurate way to put it. The worst thing that happened in the war became the heart of magic afterward. Now, I want to be honest with you about the Well of Eternity, because if you know anything about Warcraft lore, you know this isn't the last time it comes up.
It doesn't end well, does it?
That is a story for a future episode. But yes, for now, the well is here. It's beautiful. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and we're going to enjoy that for a moment before we keep going.
Fair enough.
With the wound sealed, the Keepers had their next problem. The sleeping world soul inside Azeroth was still fragile, still vulnerable. They needed a way to protect and strengthen her from within, to stabilize her life force and help her grow safely. And this is where two of my favorite things in this whole story come in.
What are they?
The Forge of Wills and the Forge of Origination. Two extraordinary machines built by Arcadis and Mimiron working together, designed to function as a pair. The Forge of Wills would go in the north, deep inside a vast mountain range that would later be called the Storm Peaks. Its job was to shape the world soul's growing mind, her sentience, her sense of self. And the Forge of Wills could do something else. It could draw on Azeroth's own life essence to create new Titan forged, creatures of living stone and metal shaped by the machine itself. This would become hugely important later, because a new generation of servants made from the Forge of Wills would do much of the actual work of building the world.
So the Forge is both a tool for healing the world soul and a factory for building workers.
Exactly. The Forge of Origination, meanwhile, would go in the south. Its job was to stabilize the physical form of the world's soul, regulate the deep rhythms of the earth, keep everything running in balance.
So one machine for the mind and one for the body.
Two machines working together, sending healing energy through the heart of the world. And both of them, as it turns out, would end up at the center of stories that players who have been around a while will know very well. Because the Forge of Wills went into Ulduar.
Ulduar, where Yogg-Saron is buried.
Right below it. The same fortress built to house Yogg-Saron's prison is also built around the Forge of Wills, and Odin was placed in charge of both. The Pantheon gave him a title for his courage in the war, Prime Designate, the highest rank among the Keepers. The most trusted warrior given the most important post, watching over the most dangerous prisoner on Azeroth while maintaining the machine meant to protect the world's soul.
Prime Designate. That title matters, doesn't it?
It matters a lot. We'll come back to it. Meanwhile, the Forge of Origination went south. Keeper Ra led the expedition, and on the way down, he discovered something unpleasant.
When is it ever pleasant?
Fair. When Aman'Thul had torn Yasharaj out of the world, pieces of the old god had fallen back to the surface, scattered remnants of this ancient, wicked thing sitting in the southern lands, infusing the soil around them with dark energy. And the largest piece they found was the heart, Yasharaj's actual heart, a mass of diseased flesh, still full of void energy, just lying there.
What did they do with it?
Ra built a vault to contain it, sealed it underground to keep its evil from spreading, and he set his Mogu followers to watch over it. a group of warriors he had brought along, shaped by the Forge of Wills. Their job? Guard the Vault of Y'Shaarj. Forever.
The Mogu. Those are the large, powerful ones with East Asian Imperial Stone Guardian style, right? That design has always stood out to me.
Very distinct. Stone-skinned, incredibly strong, built to serve as guardians and builders. The Keepers gave them some of the most important posts on the whole continent. After leaving the Mogu at the vault, Ra continued west, where he and his followers finally installed the Forge of Origination. The earth shook when it came to life. Ra sensed that the twin forges had begun working together. The healing was underway.
And that site became Uldum.
Uldum. And here is the part that I think players often gloss over. The Forge of Origination isn't just a healing machine, it has a second purpose, a failsafe. If Azeroth's life were ever so deeply corrupted that there was no other option, the Forge of Origination could be activated to wipe all life from the planet. Everything. Start from nothing.
That's the kind of button you really hope nobody ever has to press.
It is, and the fact that it exists, sitting there in Uldum behind a set of ancient guardians, that's something worth keeping in the back of your head. Ra then continued his journey northwest to the arid, difficult land that would later be called Silithus. And if that name sounds familiar,
Cthulhu's prison.
right there, under Silithus, Ra expanded the prison complex and built a great fortress over it, Ankh-Karaj, left his Titan Forge there to keep watch. And then Ra, having done everything he came to do, spent the ages that followed simply wandering the southern lands, checking on his charges, making sure everything held.
Just roaming, alone, for ages.
Ra is one of the more quietly sad figures in this whole story, but we'll get to that. Now, the two forges were in place, the wounds were healing, the old gods were sealed. The Keepers had fought a war and won. But they still had an enormous task left, actually building the world. And for that, they called on the new generation of Titan Forge that the Forge of Wills had been creating, each type shaped for a different job.
Walk me through them.
The Earthen, stony, strong, kind-hearted. They would carve mountains and dig out the deep places of the world. The Mechanomes, designed by Mimiron himself, would build and maintain the Keeper's machines. The Mogu would shape rivers and waterways across the continent. The Vrykul and the Tolvir would serve as guards for the Keeper's most important holdings.
The Tolvir, the half-human, half-lion ones, with the strong, ancient Egyptian feel?
Very strong. The Tolvir, the Anubisath giants Ra brought south, massive warrior constructs that look like they walk straight out of a temple carving. There's something grand and ceremonial about the whole southern branch of this story. And then there were the stone giants and sea giants, not built for detail work but for the large things. Lifting entire mountain ranges, digging out the seafloors, the kind of work you need something massive to do.
When you describe it like that, this was not a small project.
Not even slightly. The Keepers were literally reshaping a planet. But the Titan Forged handled the rock and the water and the stone. The living world, the plants, the animals, all the breathing things, that job belonged to someone else entirely.
Freya.
Freya. The Keeper who carried Aenar's gift, command over all living things. And Freya did not just go out and plant some trees. She built an entire dimension.
An entire what?
The Emerald Dream, a vast and always changing plane of spirits and nature magic. Think of it as a reflection of Azeroth, but alive in a different way. Not the physical world, but a picture of what the physical world was meant to be. Every forest, every valley, every creature had a version of itself in the dream, and the dream helped shape how life on Azeroth would grow and change over time, like a living blueprint, always updating.
So the world you walk through in the game, and the dream that exists alongside it, they've been connected since the beginning.
Since before the first tree grew. And the dream had strange properties that the everyday mind doesn't quite fit into. Time moved differently there. A single day in the physical world could feel like decades inside the dream. Distance meant nothing. It was a realm where normal rules didn't apply.
That sounds like a deeply disorienting place to spend any time in.
It can be, though for the beings who belong there, it feels like home. Anyway, with the Emerald Dream in place, Freya went out into the world and looked for areas where the Well of Eternity's energy had gathered in high concentrations. Those spots were ideal conditions for life to grow. She worked at those places, nurturing an extraordinary variety of plants and creatures, and the world began to fill with living things, rich, lush, growing things.
And those places, are they recognizable in the game?
Some of them are. Ungoro Crater, dense jungle, enormous plants, very much alive in a way that feels almost aggressive. Sholazar Basin, that hidden green valley surrounded by frozen mountains, warm and full of life where everything outside it is frozen. The Vale of Eternal Blossoms, one of the most beautiful places on Azeroth, all golden light and blooming gardens. These regions that feel uniquely alive and vibrant compared to the land around them, that's because they were touched by Freya herself in the earliest age.
It gives them a different feeling when you know that.
It does. And from Freya's work emerged the greatest living things, creatures she loved as if they were her own children, the wild gods, massive, ancient animals of extraordinary power, the white stag, Malorn, the great bear lords, Ursoc and Ursal, Goldrin, the great wolf, Aviana, mistress of birds, forms that players have encountered again and again across the whole history of Warcraft.
These are the same wild gods the druids revere. The ones who appear in so many different parts of the game.
The very same. And Freya bound their spirits to the Emerald Dream, tied them to that realm so they would serve as living symbols of Azeroth's health and vitality. And there was one place she and the wild gods returned to more than anywhere else.
Mount Hyjal.
Hyjal, which would remain a sacred place to the wild gods forever after. Now, as all of this was happening, the Keepers noticed something. Life was appearing that they hadn't made.
What do you mean?
When the Keepers had sealed the Elemental Lords away, some elementals had escaped banishment. And over the long ages that followed, the fury slowly drained out of them. They changed. Gradually, they became creatures of flesh and blood instead of pure elemental force.
Former elementals that became animals?
Some forms of wildlife emerged this way, and among them, proto-dragons.
Oh.
Yes, the ancestors of dragons. Not what we'd recognize yet. Proto-dragons were wilder, more instinctive, still finding their form. But they were there, on Azeroth, in the very first age of life. And what happens to the proto-dragons, that's the next chapter. That's where we're going next episode.
I've been waiting for the dragons.
Everyone waits for the dragons. But before we get there, we have to close this episode properly. Because after all the work was done, the world shaped, the life planted, the prison sealed, the machines running, the Pantheon prepared to leave.
They were always going to leave, weren't they?
They had to. Azeroth was proof that other world souls could exist out there, waiting, vulnerable, needing to be found. The Pantheon's work didn't end with Azeroth, but before they went, they left the Keepers some gifts.
What kind of gifts?
Powerful artifacts called the Pillars of Creation, tools to help with the work of ordering the world. And then, as often happens with important things in Azeroth's history, they eventually scattered, lost, hidden. But they don't disappear from the story.
Players who've been through the Legion expansion are already nodding right now.
We'll get there. The Keepers also had one final idea before the Pantheon left. Loken and Mimiron worked together to create the Discs of Norgannon, a set of magical artifacts that would automatically record the history of Azeroth as it unfolded, so that if the Pantheon ever returned, they would have a full record of everything that had happened while they were gone.
Loken made them.
Loken made them.
The same Loken.
The same Loken who already helped seal Yogg-Saron, who carries Norgannon's gift of intellect and knowledge, and now has a hand in writing the historical record of a whole world.
Players know where Loken ends up. And knowing that, looking back at this moment, there's a painful irony to it.
There really is. Future episode. And last, Aminthol's final act before leaving. He assigned a being called Algalon the Observer, a constellar, a kind of cosmic watcher, to keep watch over Azeroth from above and report back to the Pantheon. And if the world soul ever showed signs of being corrupted beyond saving, Algalon had the power to send a signal that would activate the Forge of Origination and wipe all life from the planet.
They built in a kill switch for the whole world.
Because they had already realized what a corrupted world soul could become, they were not going to let that happen to Azeroth, not after everything. Even if stopping it meant ending everything on the surface.
I remember Algalon. In Ulduar. That fight and what it means. It's completely differently now.
That's the best thing about knowing the history. Everything hits differently. And then, with all of that done, the Pantheon said goodbye. The keepers stood there and watched their makers disappear into the stars. And the world stretched out before them. Mountains, rivers, forests, wild things, all alive, all breathing, all growing under open skies.
And the Titan Forged named it.
The Titan Forged surveyed the world they had shaped, and they named the primary continent Kalimdor, Land of Eternal Starlight, the great landmass of the First Age, before anything changed it. And a lot would change it, but for now, it was whole, it was alive, and deep inside, the world soul slept on, growing stronger, dreaming in the dark.
You know what I keep thinking about?
What?
All of it was built on top of prisons. Ulduar over Yogg-Saron, Ankh-Kiraj over Cthulhu, N'Zoth somewhere sealed beneath the earth. The whole world, built directly on top of things that were locked away, not destroyed.
Every foundation has something underneath it. Azeroth's is just more honest about what's down there.
That is the most Warcraft thing you've ever said.
I'll take that. All right, next episode, we leave the grand architecture behind and get into something a little more alive. The proto-dragons are out there. And the story of how they become what we know, the dragon aspects, the 5 flights, all of it, that begins next time.
The dragons are finally coming. If you've been with us since episode 1, thank you, genuinely. And before we go, one question to think about until next time.
The Forge of Wills was built to shape the world soul's mind, and Yogg-Saron, the old god of madness, is buried directly below it. The same keeper, Odin, was put in charge of both. Do you think that was a coincidence? Or do you think the Pantheon had a reason for putting their most trusted warrior between one of the most powerful machines and the most dangerous prisoner at the same time?
Something to think about. See you next time.
See ya.